how worried are you about particularly Afghanistan's rich cultural heritage? Remind us of what happened when the last time the Taliban came to power, and what is at stake now?
Well, immediately before 9/11, the blowing up of the Bamiyan Buddha was the thing that made headlines around the world. But long before that, when the Taliban first reached Kabul, there was looting of even before the Taliban reached Kabul, there was looting of the National Museum, and then what was left, the heavier pieces in situ in the museum that people couldn't run off with, was deliberately smashed up by the Taliban. And quite a lot of these, of course, are images that are part of India's cultural heritage too. There were, for example, famous images of the Kushan kings and King Kanishka, who ruled the whole of North India as well as Afghanistan, that were destroyed by the Taliban. Now, this morning, the National Museum of Afghanistan put out a Facebook post saying that they were worried about looting in the streets. They weren't, in post, they didn't say that they were worried about the Taliban. Of course, they must be also worried about the Taliban too. But the immediate problem today is that when Ashraf Ghani just pressed the eject button and disappeared without telling anyone, without even telling his vice president or his head of security, Amrullah Saleh was in the Panjshir and didn't know about this. And when Ghani went, there was no government in the streets of Kabul. The army and police had melted away. People were throwing away their uniforms, and looting started. It's unclear whether the looters were Taliban or not Taliban. Most of the Taliban definitely were outside the city. And to everyone's surprise, we've always looked on the Taliban as this fractured and undisciplined force. But in the last 2 weeks, one of the problems is that they proved to be a lot more disciplined and coherent than any of us had imagined. And, you know, from their point of view, this is an extraordinarily effective campaign that they've waged. And now they're waiting largely on the outskirts of Kabul for the order to go in, presumably waiting for their leaders to come in from Quetta, from Pakistan, from Doha, and other rural parts of Afghanistan.